How are the guard able to go up 10-0 at one point? How does the guard have a near perfect haven against not only Luminosity, but so many other top teams in North America? Today we'll break down a couple rounds from the guard Luminosity game to show why guard's haven is so good. Before we get down to the specifics, let's actually just watch the round out and see exactly what they did. The round actually starts off with a 3-1-1. Guard has 3 players towards long C, 1 mid, and 1 towards A. Guard worked the orb onto the Sky, who actually manages to get her ult, while simultaneously Net works himself into a corner in front B. The guard decided to lean away from C and throw a lot more util towards the A side of the map, hoping to pull some rotates over. Once they feel like they've thrown enough util and actually kind of baited this A take enough, they actually work back towards the middle part of the map, where once again, we still have Net pushed up. They break the alarm bot and all decide to hit the B site to try to get the bomb down, but they actually lose 2 players here. The guard, however, does not freak out. They actually kind of sit there and post up on what they have, while we actually have Valen working up C site to try and backstab some of the players inside of C link. Net finds the pick onto Dazzle and A link, and Valen actually finds the pick onto one of the other players inside of C link, while Trent spams the other, and they rotate over to the C site. We're now down to a 2 versus 2, where the last 2 remaining Luminosity players are working up C link. Net manages to find one through a half lurk in garage window. Trent gets the bomb down, and through B-Dog being pretty loud, they're able to know he's coming up garage, and we see them set up a pretty standard crossfire where Trent is ready to swing off of Net's contact, and Net actually manages to find the kill anyways. So what happened here? Why did guard work the map so slow and throw util all over the place? Why did Net sit front B for so long? And how were guard able to actually get onto B knowing that nobody was on the site? How did Valen manage to get up C for free? Well, let's break it down. When the round begins, guard's initial plan is really just to get this orb onto Jonah so they can use that throughout the rest of the round, or potentially even the next. The reason we had Valen holding mid and Net supporting it with a turret is because of the way Haven is designed. There's so many lanes, and it's very, very common for the defense to try and take control of one of those lanes. So with guard posting up on all angles of the map, be it with a body or just with utility, they're actually able to know if Luminosity is trying to take away any of these lanes early on. Now the guard don't actually have anything over on the A side, but we'll actually see them rework over to that side of the map later and clear it out with some util. Now the second part of this strat is the way guard is throwing their util towards C early on, as well as later in the round towards A. If you pay attention to Luminosity's comp, they're actually running a Viper, and through running the Viper, they had to drop the Sky and or the second initiator, so they're going to be a lot more lacking on info. This enables guard to throw some of their utility around, specifically with Sky, to almost fake taking some of the space because Luminosity is lacking a second initiator, so they're lacking info themselves. So through them throwing a lot of utility towards C, not only are they hoping that the A might shift their movement a lot so they can maybe pressure back towards there, it also keeps the C site stable and prevents those players from moving around as well. By doing so, they're hoping that B is kind of left open in enough of a gap to where Net can work himself up and kind of post and here for rotates, here for utility, etc. As well as go into the second part of this strat where they work towards the A side of the map and kind of do a similar thing. So let's pay attention to Net's position again. Net being here enables the guard to do 2 different things. The first thing is simply just figure out the B setup. A lot of teams on Haven don't like to play B because of how many lanes there are, and B is a lot easier to retake, and that's exactly what we see Luminosity doing. They have this alarm bot in the front B, and that kind of tells the guard and Net specifically, hey, if they're alarm botting front B, that means there's not going to be anybody here with it. So if we can actually group up towards B later in the round, we can likely pop on it really, really fast and they won't be ready for us. And the second part of this is that it also enables Net to hear rotates around from the defense. Net is able to hear rotates in C and A link, garage, and even part of spawn. Let's keep that in mind going into the rest of this round. Now guard decides to go towards the A side of the map and actually use their Sky Dog to clear out all of long. Now guard is smart because using the Sky Dog to clear out long A, they actually also understand that Luminosity is actually lacking their second initiator, so they're lacking mid-round info. Because they're lacking this mid-round info, Luminosity is basically forced to respect this area and the space that they're taking. So what do? They actually slow rotate Viper through B, and that leaves the left side of the map weak once again and pulls players towards the right side. And guard can expect this to happen, so let's look at the way they move now. They move back as a unit towards front B where Net is, knowing that they're playing retake on B because of this alarm bot, and because they can expect a player to have moved away from the left side of the map, or C, Valen's able to work up and potentially lurk onto the C site later into the round. And this is exactly what we see. Guard actually goes close B and pops instantly through all of the util and jumps into the site. And once again, this is where the round gets really interesting because guard actually loses 2 players here. But once again, let's pay attention back to where Valen's position is. Not only can they expect a player to have rotated off of C earlier in the round when they sky dog down A, they also expect them to have rotated off of C because they're pressuring B now and the time is kind of low. Knowing all of this, Valen is actually able to get a lurk off and push all the way through C without Luminosity knowing, and this is where guard freezes. At this point, Trenton is on B site and Net is outside of B with their guns out, simply waiting in case Luminosity were to decide to push them while they wait for Valen to come up and backstab Luminosity. This is exactly what happens. Net had his gun out, and so when Dazzle decided to take a fight from a link, Net is able to kill him and he's ready, and at the same time, Valen works up through the C link and manages to find a kill on to Killjoy, while Trent manages to get the trade onto Tig, and while they work back towards the C side of the map in a 2 versus 2. So at this point, guard knows for a fact that the last 2 players are towards the right side of the map, probably in link, and so Net goes up into garage window while Trent goes to plant the bomb to not only listen for footsteps, but also potentially pick up a kill. This is exactly what happens. He moves up into the window, finds the kill on the Moose, and instantly retreats towards the C site with Trent to play the 2 versus 1. From here, they know B-Dog is simply pushing up garage just from being loud, and they're positioned to be able to play off each other where Net manages to find the kill onto him anyways. This was pretty much a perfect round out of the guard. Notice how they're consistently manipulating the lanes that the defense might have and also manipulating their rotations to move around the map how they would want them to. Through this, they're able to make the proper mid-round read to go onto B site, as well as have a perfect lurk from Valen, which ends up winning them the round, even though it was their bonus and they were down a man advantage. How perfect. So now we'll talk about another concept that applies to all maps that not only does the guard do really well, but they specifically do really well on Haven, and it also works really well on Haven because of, once again, all the lanes that Haven has. The way I see the game, every map has these different kind of choke points, and if you go to pressure out those choke points, you're usually able to force rotations and move the setup around and or just disrupt it. On Split, you have Ramp and B Heaven. On Bind, you have Hookah and Showers. Haven has multiple, but the most common are going to be A Short and Garage, and in this VOD, we're going to see Guard really do a good job at pressuring Garage. As the round starts to play out, we'll see how the Guard is set up pretty standardly across the map, but look towards Garage. We actually have Jonah, Pete, and Saya working it together with a smoke and window. So the whole point of this is that they're really going to get in Garage and disrupt this setup very heavily. So they're obviously going to smoke window, we're going to have Sky Dog up, and they're also going to pull the lane that connects Garage and C site. Through doing this, Saya actually dashes up, and look at what happens. So Saya actually manages to get a spray kill here through the smoke while moving, which is kind of lucky to be honest. But once again, their whole goal wasn't even to get that kill. Their goal was to get in Garage and pressure this zone to disrupt the setup. So obviously, them getting a kill is a massive plus, but you can still see how Luminosity moves around on the map. That biggest movement is Sova simply rotates over towards the left side of the map. Now we're back to the same thing that the guard did on the previous round, where they have the perfect read and make the perfect mid-round play here. Through everything they're doing, they know exactly where the entire team is at. So how do they know? So if you noticed earlier, whenever Saya dashed into Garage, picked up the kill on the Moose, and was leaving, they actually had Killjoy peek him, showing that she's on the left side of the map. This is also expected because Net has an upwards position in mid, and he hears the turret on B. You can also expect the Smokes player to be anchoring C, because that is not only just very common on this map in general, we actually have Valen up in this corner where he's able to potentially hear jumping around and movement. As the round continues to go on, we also see Sova drone up through Garage, showing that Sova is on the left side of the map as well. If the round plays out a little bit longer, we'll see that Trent is able to spot the Jet posted up on A Short, identifying where she's at. So now we're in a very similar situation to the previous round we analyzed. They know that Jet is posted up on a line in A Short. They know that both Killjoy and Astra are doubled up on C, and or Killjoy just kind of spotting the Garage push. And we should once again pay attention to where Net is, and we can see him pushed up close towards B corner once again. Net being here once again tells the guard that they are in a similar setup as the previous round. Killjoy is putting some utility on the B site because there's not actually a person there. They're not planning to play the B site, so they're going to put util just to get that info. Through doing so, guard can expect almost nobody to be on the site, or if there is, it's just going to be one person that they can easily trade out. And they once again decide to hit B. So they all flood into B site, and they actually manage to find Dazzle, which gives them a 5 versus 3. The round plays out kind of standardly from here. We actually have Saya shooting down to 1 bullet to try and go for the 1 tap just for a little bit of style, but other than that, nothing really goes differently here. They all try to group outside of B once they get the bomb down to dodge the Killjoy ult, but B-Dog has an op, so it's going to be very difficult for him to even take a retake anyways, so as long as they stay grouped up, they'll just play trades, and then the round will just be won very simply. And that's exactly what happens. The rest of the team kind of peeks them one by one and just does not have the greatest timing, which they weren't really going to win anyways, and we have B-Dog go to save the op. This is an analytical breakdown of how the guard plays Haven practically perfectly and how they manipulate timings and rotations to always get what they want on the map. Thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, let me know in the comments. I like making stuff like this and I want to do something similar to this. I just need to know if this format is good and whatnot. So thanks again for watching and I'll see you guys in the next one.